very much. Now we have the final presentation for today, and then we can discuss other questions related to our region and how we are going to move further. And sustainability of internet in Central Asia, and the speaker is Aftab Siddiqa, the Senior Manager on Internet Technologies.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amreesh Phokeer, and I work for the Internet Society as an internet measurement and data expert. And it's a real pleasure for me to be here. It's actually my first time at CAPIF in Central Asia and in Kyrgyzstan. So really, thank you for your warm welcome. So today I'm going to talk about a tool that we are building called the Internet Resilience Index. So what we are going to look at today, so what is Internet Resilience? So how we define Internet Resilience? Because as you can imagine, Internet Resilience is quite a complex system, or it's made of so many different parts, so we need to break it into what we call measurable parts. I'll talk a little bit about internet fragmentation, so what are the threats and what we can learn from other countries, and then we will perhaps discuss a little bit about data collection and sharing, how we can, or how you can help us in our data advocacy efforts and to improve data around the internet health, so that we can actually provide you better information for advocacy. So there is an important tool that we are actually maintaining called the Internet Society Pulse. So first of all, Internet Society, as you know, is a global non-profit organization. We stand for an open, secure, trustworthy, and globally connected internet. We have chapters around the world. I would actually say a big thank you to the Kyrgyz chapter, which is very active and is a very good example of a well-functioning chapter. So we have a tool called Pulse, and on which we curate data from different sources. And the idea is really to make the data in such a way that it is easy for policymakers to use this data and make intervention in their own countries to improve the internet in general. So the Internet Society itself do not generate data. We are not a primary source of data as opposed to RIPE Atlas or the RIPE NC. So we rely heavily on other partners, as you can see here on this slide, from the World Bank to PCH or APNIC. So we use data from different sources and we aggregate the data and then we present that data to you. So it's I would say it's a bit and higher level than what Alex has presented or what Jim has presented. But we do use those raw measurements. So the Internet Society Pulse is tracking different things at the moment. So we track shutdown. So where are shutdown happening and why are they taking place? We also estimate, we have a tool that can estimate the economic impact. So it's called a net loss tool. It's based on an econometric model. You put the date, you put the duration of the shutdown, and it will tell you, for example, in a certain country, what is the GDP loss or what is the foreign direct investment loss if there is a shutdown. We track the deployment of important technologies such as DNSSEC, HTTPS, or PKI. We also look at concentration. You would agree with me that concentration is not good for a market, for an internet ecosystem, because it means there are single point of failures. So the more diverse the internet is at different spheres, whether it is for upstream providers, whether it is for retail ISPs, the more diverse it is, the better. And what we are going to talk about today is actually resilience. We also have another tool on the same website called Country Reports, where we collate all the information together. And it is also another way to have access to the information for you to make your advocacy plan or different intervention to improve the system. So what's impacting the health of the internet? So of course there are different things. I'm sure if you go to the doctor and to your doctor and say, "Oh, I'm feeling unwell," but you need to know what exactly. He needs to know what exactly. He will be asking a lot of questions. So the internet is the same. So it's many different components of the internet, and it's usually difficult to actually have information on everything. So what we are looking at today is a lack of resilience. And how are we defining resilience? So first of all, what is a resilient internet connection? Is the one that can maintain and cases of cable breaks because of natural calamities or sabotage that can happen. So as Thomas mentioned, if we have more connectivity, it is better. So this is one aspect of resilience. So as I mentioned, resilience is a complex construct. So we need to break it into what we call measurable pieces. So we decided to focus the measurement of resiliency on 4 important pillars. First of all, infrastructure. Of, for example, data centers or internet exchange points or the cable ecosystem. Performance, how good or how bad the performance of the internet is in your country. We look at also the stability of performance over time and security, of course, because an internet which is not secure is vulnerable. And finally, a less technical aspect, we look at market readiness. In market readiness, we would look at things such as affordability. Because you might have a very performing internet connection, but what if it is not affordable by the population? We look at aspects such as concentration. So those pillars now are declined into what we call indicators. So we choose them. We choose them, first of all, we look at whether they're relevant. Are they telling a story about resilience in the country? Are they accurate? Are they providing information, accurate information enough for us to be able to use it sustainably? How about coverage? Is it covering as many countries as possible? Because let's say you have a metric, but it is only covering 50 countries. That wouldn't be enough for us to have like a global view of resilience around the world. And also freshness, we need to know whether the indicator is fresh, is providing us data constantly. But the type of indicator is also different type. There's a direct indicator. So for example, let's measure the IPv6 adoption in countries. This is a direct indicator. There are also composite indicators. For example, I don't know if you're familiar with something like the Global Security Index from the ITU. They put different aspects of cybersecurity in that index, and we use it as a composite indicator. And then we also have a third type of indicator, which is a proxy indicator. So for example, we would use the number of IXPs or the number of data centers, which to quantify the robustness of the local ecosystem. So putting that together, we use what we call a weighted sum formula to build an index. So at different levels, we have the indicator level, we assign some weights, we have the dimension level, we assign some weights, and then the pillar level, we assign some weights, we aggregate everything together, and we have a full map of the world with different ranking based on, with countries ranked based on the index that they have received. So if we need to break this down into region, so Europe is leading in terms of overall internet resilience. It might be different depending on what pillar you would be looking. For example, if you would be looking at performance or security, maybe Asia or America might be better, but overall, on average, Europe is doing better. Let's look at Asia. Southeastern Asia is doing the best, and Central Asia is lagging behind. It doesn't mean that Central Asia is the worst of all. It means that there are things that can be improved. So this is the the beauty of this tool that we now know, okay, there are all weak points, and now let's try to improve on things. And in terms of the countries in Central Asia, we have Kazakhstan, which is doing quite well, followed by Kyrgyzstan, and then finally Turkmenistan is a little bit lagging behind. So the tool will provide you a bit more detailed information, as you can see on the screen. So this, for example, is for Uzbekistan. The red square are places where maybe we need to pay particular attention. For example, in the enabling infrastructure, we saw that there aren't many data centers in Uzbekistan with regards to the size of the country and the size of the population. IPv6 adoption in Uzbekistan is extremely low. And also, for example, upstream redundancy, where how many upstream providers in a network has is also lagging behind. So it means that, okay, there are things that the country are doing quite well. For example, in terms of the fixed network performance is highly ranked, or mobile connectivity in terms of network coverage is quite good. But there are things that can be improved, and let's together work on that. For Kyrgyzstan, as you can see here also, there are some issues on the enabling infrastructure in terms of the number of IXPs, for example. IPv6 adoption is also very low. DNSSEC validation. So all the networks in the country, or the resolvers in the country that are installed at, let's say, the internet service providers, are they performing DNSSEC validation queries? Not so much. The peering efficiency as well is a little bit low. For example, here we specifically look at the percentage of local networks which are peering at any exchanges in Kyrgyzstan. For Tajikistan, it's more or less the same situation where, for example, we can improve on the upstream redundancy, we can improve on the DNSSEC adoption of the CCTLD. So if the CCTLD is not signed, it means that any of the secondary level domain or any domain using the CCTLD cannot build a chain of trust. And finally, Turkmenistan, again, DNSSEC validation is quite low. Traffic localization generally in terms of peering efficiency or market diversity is also a little bit low. Kazakhstan is the country which is doing quite well. As I mentioned, in terms of performance, quite well, security also very good. They could do better in IPv6 adoption, but they are already there's already some amount of IPv6 adoption in the country, so which is great. So really the idea is not to give you like the absolute values of IPv6 adoption, because I'm sure you can find this information either from Google or from Epinik or primary sources of data like the RIPE NCC. But the idea here is to give you a tool that can tell you a story. As was mentioned by the previous speaker, the idea is to give you some qualitative feeling about how the situation is in your country. And just by looking here, for example, we are putting all the Central Asian countries together, and then we are ranking them or showing you the different pillars. So for example, Kazakhstan is doing quite well in security, but not so well in infrastructure. So maybe this is where we need to put the focus. And similarly, Turkmenistan is maybe doing okay in terms of security, but we need perhaps to focus on performance and infrastructure. So I mentioned about another tool that we have called the country report. So the country report takes also information from different places. So for example, here it is showing the internet resilience score of Kazakhstan, but it is also giving you some other information such as internet use, how many operators you have, IXP operators you have in the market. Is your retail ISP diverse or not? Is your transit provider ecosystem diverse or not? So all of this is to tell you that bad things happen on the internet, outages happen. And as I mentioned, all outages has an impact on the economy, because if there are businesses that cannot operate, it means that there is a loss in GDP, there is a loss in productivity. And as you can see here, outages happen even in the most advanced countries. For example, Jim actually talked about Rogers in Canada, where because of a lack of diversity, because the market is quite highly concentrated, I would say few operators, an incident happened and a lot of operators were knocked out. Same happened in Australia. But we don't want you to be next. That's why it is important that we adopt some best practices in terms of resiliency or redundancy. Again, on the country report, you will find more information about how globally connected your internet is. So the number of network assigned, the number of internet exchange points, so on and so forth. We have an important tool that we are currently developing right at the moment called traffic localization. So my colleague tomorrow will talk about the IXP tracker tool that we have on Pulse, and also this study that we are running on content locality. So this is an important information that we are injecting in the Internet Resilience Index as well. So in this case, for example, traffic localization in some countries are also lagging behind. So this is something that you can improve on. Hannah tomorrow will tell you a bit more on the situation. So this one is about enabling technologies. So down there you have different, enabling infrastructure. That's the type on the slide. We are ranking also different countries. So as you can see, Tajikistan and Turkmenistan, the number of data centers or the number of XPs are quasi inexistent. So maybe it is important that we start thinking about peering in those countries. In terms of local content, as you know, there are benefits of localizing content, because first of all, it has lower latency, but also you are saving on using international transit, which is usually expensive. We have found, for example, the percentage of the top 1,000 websites that are the most popular in the Central Asian countries. Where are they hosted? In Kazakhstan, 50% is more than 50% is hosted locally. In Uzbekistan is less than 25%. So yeah, but you will get more information about these specific statistics tomorrow. So please come.
Excuse me, Aftab. We don't have any time, so
Okay.
you have just 1 minute just to
All right.
conclude your
I think
presentation.
the slides are backup slides, so I will just skip those. And yeah, again, we are collecting data, as I mentioned, from different sources.